In your 20s, there's this vague feeling of needing to have it all figured out. You're supposed to go to college and then land a great job and buy a house and get married. But by the time I turned 30, I realized that all of those rules are entirely made up. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have saved myself so much money and time and heartbreak. So today I'm going to share with you 5 money lessons I've learned in the last 10 years. First up, there is no job that is worth sacrificing yourself and your health for. There is this kind of unspoken rule that you need to spend your 20s completely grinding to the point of borderline toxic productivity. And I do think that some of this comes from the older generations that would work for the same company for 30 plus years, have this really strong company loyalty, and then walk away ultimately with a pension that would pay for all of their bills in retirement. But the thing is, that is just not the world we're currently living in. When I was fresh out of college, I went the retail pharmacy route where I was working in a major pharmacy chain for 10, 11, 12-hour days, driving all over the state for 50, 60, 70-hour weeks. And it got to the point where I was having the craziest headaches of my life. And I'm not a person that grew up having migraines or ever really struggled with super bad headaches. This was totally new for me. There were shifts where I seriously thought I was just going to pass out on the job from stress. My shoulders were constantly raised. I was so anxious. I wasn't getting enough sleep. And yeah, I was making great money fresh out of college, but that particular job was ruining my life. I genuinely could not imagine working like that for the next 30 plus years. And the crazy thing about the jobs we work today is that there's no guaranteed payout in retirement. Our parents and grandparents' generation had no problem working for the same company forever because they knew that the light at the end of the tunnel was their pension. When they stopped working, they would be guaranteed money in their pocket for life. And even when they passed on, their spouse would continue to receive those payments in retirement. So there was obvious financial security in staying with the same company, but there was also this sense that working there for an extended period of time was mutually beneficial. But today, it's not like that. There are no guaranteed payouts in retirement. Most jobs no longer offer a pension, and we have to take care of ourselves. So if you're going to have to take care of yourself eventually, why not take care of yourself now? If your job has to cut your position, no matter how much they like you, they are going to cut your position without a second thought. All this to say, do not stick around at a job you hate. Find another one, right? Don't screw yourself over, but find another job and just move on. Leaving retail for me was the best career decision that I ever made because it turned out to be the catalyst that got me working in the ER and then starting a business that made more money than I ever imagined. Okay, next lesson. The friend who is constantly balling out and spending big can't actually afford it. You just haven't seen their credit card bill. I remember in my early 20s seeing some of my friends start graduating college and posting pictures of their fancy vacations and going out every weekend and photos on Instagram of their keys to their brand new BMW. And I remember thinking that I was so far behind because I was still driving my same car from high school and wearing the same clothes and hanging out on the weekends, like studying in my dorm. And it seriously wasn't until almost 10 years later that I realized how far ahead I actually was. I definitely didn't do everything right money-wise, which you'll see in the next couple of points, but this was something I got right. I really spent below my means for many years. By the time I was 24 or 25, I had a credit score in the high 700s. Meanwhile, I had friends who on paper were making great money, but when they went to go apply for a mortgage, they actually couldn't get approved because their debt to income ratio was so high. On the outside, having lots of fancy things can make it look like you have a lot of money, but it really doesn't say anything about what's actually going on inside the bank account. Yes, there are people who spend lots of money on fancy clothes and fancy cars who are legitimately rich, but I have to tell you, most of those people are not 25-year-olds. Because remember, if the bulk of their money is is going toward expensive things to look rich, that means the bulk of their money is not going towards saving and investing to be rich. And by the time you're 30, trust me, you will see with your own eyes how that worked out for them. Number 3, no is a complete sentence. Setting boundaries is one of the most important lessons I have ever learned in life. And I'm going to be real with you, I am still not perfect about it. I have struggled forever with people-pleasing syndrome. I always felt like I needed to have the super high-paying degree and the really respectable career. And for a very long time, it led me down a path of saying yes to things that didn't fulfill me. I took on extracurriculars that I didn't really want to do so that I could put them on my resume. I listened to the opinions of people who said I should go to this school and not that school, or take this job and not that job because of the prestige or the name. I would say yes every time someone asked me to pick up a shift because I didn't want to look like a bad employee or let people down by saying no. In my 20s, I worried so much about what other people thought about what I was doing and my life choices that I started to lose sight of what I actually wanted for myself. If you struggle with this whole people-pleasing thing, I really highly recommend you read the book, The Courage to Be Disliked. The book is based on the psychological principles of Alfred Adler, and one of the key principles for me was that we often hold ourselves back from doing the things we really want to do because we're afraid of what will happen if we try. Because when we do a thing that we want to do, we might upset other people. Yes, but Adler says that everyone has life tasks, and if someone is upset with something you're doing, that is their life task, not yours. You can't change how they feel about it. That's up to them. So separate your life tasks from everyone else's. Don't worry about what other people are thinking about what you're doing or how you might look. Because frankly, chances are they're probably only really thinking about themselves. If you don't want to pick up the shift at work, just say no. You don't have to say, I really can't because I was planning on going to this thing this weekend and I really was hoping that I could have the time out of the way. Just say no. You don't need to give anyone a reason. Just say no, set the boundary, and move on. Which brings me to the next one. It's a much better use of your time to focus on how to make more money than it is to cut back every little thing that brings you joy. We only have so much time on this earth, and even less time where we're actually awake and moving around. If you only have so many hours in a day and you want to have more money, it will almost certainly be a better use of your time figuring out how to make more money than it will be to reduce all of your expenses. For me, this meant applying to a new job every 2 to 3 years and accepting a 20 to 30% pay bump instead of staying in the same place and taking that standard 3% raise every year. It meant figuring out how to put as much money as possible into my investments so that the majority of my money could be working for me and not against me. It also meant that I didn't have to cut out the latte that I drink before I work a 12-hour shift in the ER, or cancel my gym membership so that I can continue to exercise and help clear my mind and my body and just feel like I'm living a happier, healthier life. If you can raise your annual salary from $50,000 a year to $100,000 a year, you are going to feel the effects of that way more than cutting your miscellaneous expenses from $500 to $250. And that just makes the final point even more relevant, which is if you want to have more money, you have to believe that you are capable of having more money. And I mean, really, really believe it. Having X amount of money is part of our identity in the same way that our career path is part of our identity, and our hometown is part of our identity, and our hobbies are part of our identity. And for a lot of people, the amount of money that we have growing up or the amount of money that we're surrounded by sets us in our identity. So when we become adults, we think that that is how we are. If our parents made $60,000 a year, we tell ourselves that if we can make $60,000 a year, we've made it. We're at our cap. Like, that's as high as we're going to go. And it might not even be a conscious thought that we have, but it's something that absolutely influences every decision that we make. Because think about it. Let's say that my identity is that I'm a tennis player, and I am really grounded in that identity because I played college tennis. I played tennis for years and years, and I'm still playing tennis now. So naturally, I probably exercise pretty regularly. I'm outside pretty often. I wear sunscreen. I hydrate. I drink lots of water. And all of these things reinforce my grounding in the belief in my identity that I'm a tennis player. So now imagine that my identity is that I'm bad with money and I've never been good at money and my parents weren't good at money and I'm just not going to have a lot of money. What kind of decisions do you think that I would make? And why would I make them any differently if that's who I truly believed myself to be? I understand that it's not just that simple, but I am never going to have lots of money if I don't believe at my core that I'm a person who's capable of having lots of money. So you have to be a little delusional in the beginning. I'm so serious. You have to believe that you are a person who has lots of money. When you can convince yourself that you are a rich person and it's rooted in your identity and that grounds you, you are going to start to make lifestyle choices and decisions that reinforce this belief that your identity is you are a rich person. And because of this, your habits are going to change. You will start saving and investing as much money as you possibly can. You will make sure you have a high yield savings account with an emergency fund. You will make sure that you are always paying yourself first. And I'm telling you, eventually you will be making so much money that you can't even tell where precisely the delusion wore off and the actual having wealth part began. As always, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and let me know in the comments what were the best lessons you learned in your 20s. I want to know what you wish somebody would have told you sooner, and share them with everybody so that we can all level up together. See you in the next one.